I used to think Christmas was a measuring tape, not of time of worth. Every December, my mother wrapped judgment in glossy paper and called it tradition, and I learned to stand very still while she measured me against the glittering wall of expectations she'd built for my sister. Celeste shines, she'd say, as if it were a fact of physics. You, Rowan, you. You're thoughtful. The pause after my name always dragged like a dress caught on a nail. I'm Rowan Cass, 32, the sort of person who remembers birthdays, carries jumper cables, and refills the coffee pot before it's empty. Those are not the kinds of things that sparkle on a mantle. They don't make mothers clap their hands or fathers clear their throats and say, "That's my kid." They are invisible until they aren't. My father, Julian, died when I was 8. After that, the house changed aroma from coffee and cedar to lemon cleaner and cold. Then came Victor, the man with the wolf gray hair and a smile like a stop sign. Looks friendly, means don't. He married my mother when I was 12 and Celeste was 14. He favored her immediately. Celeste learned to shine brighter. I learned to be quiet. It wasn't that Victor was cruel. He was curated. He curated people the way my mother curated the living room shelf. No fingerprints, no misaligned spines, no odd colors. Celeste's trophies piano, debate, swim fit like a matched set. My sketches and shoebox dioramas, my habit of mending things. My library cards with cracked lamination, those apparently clashed. And my mother Lorraine slipped into a new religion, appearances. By the time I graduated college, she could transform anxiety into a charcuterie board. If guests were due, she'd start her sermon. Presentation is love. People can feel when you've taken care. The implication hung in the hallway like mist. If everything wasn't beautiful, love might not arrive. I made the mistake of believing that love could be earned with good deeds. I mowed the lawn without being asked. I kept my room neat, my voice small. I brought home report cards that whispered AAA, hoping one would shout loud enough. It wasn't that they didn't notice. It's that they noticed by subtraction. Thank goodness you aren't causing trouble, Rowan. I became a relief more than a person. Celeste loved me in the buttery, spoiled way of someone who has never had to ration affection. She loved me like a third throw pillow on her perfect bed dextra, but not essential. She would loop her arm through mine in public and say, "This is my baby sister," even though she only beat me by 2 years. On paper, we were close. In practice, I was a safe shadow. She stood in the center of attention and pulled me into the edge of the spotlight so she could look generous. By the time this story begins, Celeste was the kind of local celebrity that makes small towns perform silent applause when she walks into bakeries. She had a lifestyle blog that grew fangs and devoured our city. Collaborations, brand partnerships, glossy spreads. She posted videos where she discussed intentional living, while perched on cream furniture my hands would never dare touch. My mother watched each upload as if it were the evening news. "Listen to how she articulates," she'd say. "She's so poised." And Rowan. Victor would add a beat later, not unkindly, just as an obligatory footnote. "How's your project?" My project was a real thing with real deadlines and a real impact. I was the program coordinator for Safe Harbor, a nonprofit that builds transitional housing for women leaving abusive relationships. We repaired homes and sometimes repaired what homes can't. We handled panic at 2 a.m. like dishes quietly, efficiently. I understood grant applications and landlords who think compassion is a fiscal liability. I could wrangle plumbers, inspectors, and city council members who lost my emails. My life was spreadsheets, checklists, and crisis smiles. It was not photogenic. When the December sky turned iron and the grocery store started smelling like cinnamon, Celeste announced her plan. A Christmas Eve live stream at the house. She said it at Sunday dinner, which my mother staged weekly like a Broadway revival. There were tapered candles and brass holders, linen napkins, the good plates. Victor carved the roast like he was negotiating with it. A live stream, I asked, spearing a Brussels sprout. For charity, Celeste added quickly, playing the preemptive defense she'd perfected. "We'll do a giveaway, partner with a brand, handcraft ornaments. People love interactivity. We'll raise money for children's coats." She flashed at my mother, who glowed as if the suggestion itself warmed the room. And Celeste's voice softened. It'll be our first Christmas Eve together in years, all of us. Content and family time. Win-win. My mother pressed her palms to her chest. Celeste, you angel? Sounds busy, I said. Busy is good, Victor murmured. He prefers his holidays like his suits, structured. Celeste's smile slid to me. You'll help, of course. Of course, I echoed. That's my role in this family, invisible scaffolding. She went on about brand contacts and lighting setups. I drifted into a memory of the last time I'd spent Christmas Eve in that house. I was 19, wearing a sweater that still held my father's scent because I'd stolen it from the cedar chest. Celeste opened a small velvet box from Victor and cried at the necklace inside. My mother said, "Oh, sweetheart," and I waited for my moment. When I tore my paper, I found a portable phone charger. "For your backpack," my mother said. "You're always out late at the library." I told myself it was practical, that attention is a finite resource and Celeste's moments simply required more. I told myself I was lucky to be thought of at all. It is funny the stories we tell ourselves to survive the absence of others' stories about us. After dinner, I washed dishes while my mother rearranged platters no one would see again until Easter. Her rings clinked against porcelain. "Celeste's idea is wonderful," she said, not looking at me. "We could use some joy this year." "You could use views." I said before I could tuck the thought back. I didn't mean it as a jab. I meant, I see you. I see how you lean toward the screen when Celeste's views tick up. How the numbers blush your cheeks in a way compliments never did. My mother's shoulders stiffened, then resettled. "It's for charity, Rowan." I didn't say it wasn't. She turned, wiped her hands, and took a long look at me. "You always find the splinter in things." "Your father." She stopped. My father's name was a thin floorboard we rarely stepped on. It creaked with grief. "What about Dad?" I asked. "Sometimes I am terrible. Sometimes I invite ghosts to dinner." "He would be proud," she said carefully, "of how you help people." It was the kind of compliment you give the reliable coworker who covered your shift, not the daughter you swore to love first. But I took it, folded it up, put it in my pocket. Back at my apartment, I opened the spreadsheet that had been my lullaby for weeks. Home for the holidays, emergency appeal. Winter reduces everything to edges, and for our clients, those edges are knives. We had 8 families in temporary motel rooms because their abusers knew where they'd been staying. We needed to move them before the holidays. The city was a maze of no vacancy signs and landlords who believed December was an excuse to double the deposit. I'd been writing a grant proposal between sips of cold coffee, but tonight I closed it and opened a different document, one titled Christmas Gift Ideas, blank. My cursor blinked like a tiny heartbeat. I could buy my mother a self-heating mug that kept tea at 92 degrees precisely. Victor monogrammed cufflinks he would never wear because he only wore one brand, Celeste. What do you buy a woman whose wish list arrives monthly in the form of sponsored packages? An experience. A gift card. The idea of handing her a thin envelope while a camera captured her disappointment made bile rise in my throat. I shut my laptop and stared at my ceiling, where the glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck up years ago still faintly glowed. I'd never replace them. Maybe I liked the trick of it. Light you can only see when everything else goes dark. At Safe Harbor the next morning, the office smelled like dust and peppermint. Sylvia, our director, had stuck a candy cane in every pencil holder like a flag. Sylvia is 55 and wields kindness like a blunt instrument. She hired me 3 years ago after a grant I wrote for my kitchen table got us enough cash to replace the ancient boiler. "You speak fluent bureaucracy," she told me at the interview. That's rarer than gold. I filled her in on my weekend and the upcoming Celeste Palooza. Sylvia listened while sharpening pencils with ferocious attention. "You going?" she asked. "Do I have a choice?" "You always have a choice." She pointed a pencil at me. "But sometimes keeping the peace is the choice you need to survive the week. And sometimes what you need is a little honest chaos." I laughed. "What does that even mean?" It means I've seen you make yourself so small to fit into their lives that you could fit inside the hollow of a spoon." She shrugged. "Maybe you don't need to do that this year. Maybe Christmas isn't a measuring tape. Maybe it's a mirror. Is there a fifth option where I skip Christmas altogether and take the van to the coast? There's a nor'easter coming," she said. "The coast will be at your front door." The nor'easter arrived on schedule, as if the sky had accepted Celeste's content calendar. Snow pushed up against curbs, turned into walls, then acquired a personality bully sculptor, Judge. The town huddled under its weight. On the morning of Christmas Eve, I carried a box of donated ornaments to my car, and my breath came out like cartoon smoke. I drove to my mother's house in first gear, a caravan of cautious. When I turned onto Sparrow Lane, I saw the house I grew up in transformed into a settling light glow against frosted windows. A tripod like a thin-legged animal by the door? Celeste's SUV was parked at a jaunty angle, the way people park when there's no chance of being towed. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon and new money. My mother had laid out a spread that could feed an army with impeccable taste. Miniature quiches, fig jam with soft brie, sugared cranberries that looked like they'd been kissed by frost fairies. She wore a red sweater that fit like an apology. Victor had a tasteful Santa tie. The tree was a magazine, shoot white lights, coordinated ornaments, ribbons cascading like waterfalls. I felt suddenly conscious of the salt crust on my boots. Celeste descended from the staircase in a white cashmere dress that made her look like a well-behaved storm. She kissed my cheek with the precision of a greeting card. "You made it." "I live 15 minutes away," I said. "Traffic." She widened her eyes as if traffic were a character who might walk in at any moment. So she clapped once. "The plan. We go live at 6. We'll do the ornament DIY in the dining room, then hot cocoa bar, then the donation push. At 7:30 we'll switch to gifts." And she paused, eyes flicking to my hands. "Where's your? You brought something, right?" I looked at the box of ornaments I was carrying and suppressed a laugh. "Yes." She smiled, relieved, then concerned. "Oh good, just make sure it's wrapped nicely." Nothing from the shelter. People get weird when they think we're giving away used things. I thought of the woman who'd knitted 12 scarves for our clients and left a note in the box that said, "Every stitch is a prayer." I also thought of the night last week when I'd held a 4-year-old while his mother filed a police report. He had fallen asleep on my shoulder with the complete trust of someone whose life had been a series of ambushes. I didn't bring a used toaster, Celeste. Good. She kissed my cheek again, an extra eraser mark. "I trust you." That was a dangerous thing to say to a person who has always been used like a tool because she's trustworthy. We set up. I tied satin ribbon onto ornament hooks. Victor fussed with a cord. My mother adjusted the angle of the centerpiece as if she were convincing it to tell the truth. Celeste checked her lip color in the camera and practiced her opening. "Hi, loves. Welcome back to the channel. I can't believe I get to bring you into my real family's Christmas Eve." "Not real," Victor said. He is allergic to the suggestion of unreality. "Actual. Right?" Celeste said, because she knows which hills to die on, and real versus actual is not one. "I can't believe I get to bring you into my actual family's Christmas Eve." When she looked my way, I forced a smile. "You're an adult. This is fine. Make it fine." Before the live stream, there was the matter of the family gift exchange. Celeste insisted we do it off-camera first, so we can savor. Then we'll open the PR packages and partner gifts on the stream. I had placed 3 wrapped gifts under the tree. A leather-bound recipe book for my mother, embossed with Lorraine in gold. A limited-release chess set for Victor, designed to look like mid-century architecture. And for Celeste, a hand-painted globe in creamy neutrals. The kind of understated decor she'd approve, with a tiny heart painted over our town. "So, you remember where you started?" I'd said when the shopkeeper asked about the heart. The real gift for Celeste, the one that lived under my coat in an envelope that bit my ribs when I moved, was not under the tree. It was not the kind of thing that could sit quietly in the corner. But the gifts from them, those would be, as always, a litmus test. I reminded myself that I didn't need tests anymore. Then I realized I was holding my breath. We gathered in the living room, the one we were never allowed to use as kids, except on Christmas and funerals. Snow pressed its face to the windows. The tree lights freckled the room with warm stars. My mother handed out packages with the flourish of a magician. "Celeste, darling, open yours from Victor and me." Celeste peeled back paper and ribbons, savoring the performance. Inside was a slim box. She lifted the lid and gasped, a sound that felt choreographed but sincere. A watch, a gold-faced, delicate leather band. Vintage. "Restored," Victor said. "From 1963, oh," she breathed, "year Daddy was born." My mother's smile faltered for a second, then recovered. It felt right. Celeste threw her arms around both of them. "It's perfect." I cradled my small box from them like it might be a baby bird. When it was my turn, I smiled and said, "Thank you," before I knew what it was, like a soldier saying, "Yes, sir," without hearing the order. I pulled off the paper. Inside was a hardcover planner, minimalist, beige. On the front, in small gold letters, "Get things done." I inhaled. There was nothing wrong with a planner. I like a planner. But I have a planner. I have 3, in fact, each with tabs worn like kneecaps. The inscription on the title page read, "For our organized girl." M and V. I forced my face into wonder. "It's beautiful. We saw it and thought of you," my mother said. Relief washing over her like she'd been waiting to see if I'd pass a test I hadn't studied for. So practical. "Useful," Victor added a word he respects like a creed. I nodded, swallowing. "It's fine. It's fine. It's always been fine." Celeste handed me a small bag with tissue paper that gave off a whisper when I tugged it. Inside, a candle. The label said snow linen. It smelled like nothing. "So you can relax," she said. "You always seem tense." I wonder why. I wanted to say. Instead, I smiled. "Thank you." Celeste opened my globe and squealed as if I'd handed her a puppy. My mother cried when she unwrapped the recipe book. "Oh, honey," she said, voice wet. "Your grandmother's molasses cookie recipe can finally have a place." Victor traced a bishop with his finger and nodded. "Strong design, Rowan." These were wins, I told myself. I tucked my planner and my candle carefully into the tote I'd brought. "Useful," I thought dryly. The envelope under my coat burned like a secret. By 5:50, Celeste stood before the tripod like a priestess at an altar. "We'll start with the cocoa bar," she said. "Rowan, you'll be off to the side." She didn't mean to be cruel. She genuinely believes she is making space for me by giving me the perimeter. And I over and over have accepted the perimeter because it feels safer than the center. The envelope scraped my rib again. I adjusted my coat, feeling the square edge. "I'll pour," I said. Someone has to pour. At 6, the red light bloomed. Celeste's face arranged itself into her public versions. Still her. But with the pores airbrushed out, the inflection polished. "Hi, loves. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight is so special because I'm letting you into my actual family's Christmas Eve." She giggled at herself. "We're partnering with Warm Winter Coats to make sure every child in our town has something cozy this season. Every super chat goes right to them. I'll match up to $5,000. The chat inched upward like a tide. Emojis and hearts bobbed past. "We love you. Angel. Your house is goals." Someone wrote, "Tell us about your sister." Celeste glanced at me and pulled me in frame for a second. A cameo. "This is Rowan. She's the practical one. She keeps us together." I waved the way cartoon characters wave from parade floats. "Hi, okay," Celeste chirped, releasing me ornament DIY. I retreated off camera, poured cocoa, replaced marshmallows, handed Celeste twine. Wiped up a spill that would never make it onto her reel. I lived in the negative space of her performance the way I always had. And still, I felt something shift. It was small, like when you're hiking and the earth gives a subtle sigh under your boot, a whisper that says, "Carefully now." In the kitchen, away from the lens and the curated laughter, I leaned against the counter and pressed my palm to my coat. The envelope sat hot against my chest, absurd in its power. It wasn't a check. It wasn't a fancy voucher for a spa weekend. It wasn't a plane ticket or a surprise engagement ring. It was a notarized document and a letter. 2 pages that could tilt a room. The document was a deed. The letter was from Evelyn March, the woman who ran the Marchfield estate until she died in October. Evelyn had been one of our donors and something like a friend. She wore outrageous brooches and told jokes with the rhythms of a drum solo. When she learned what we were building at Safe Harbor, she asked questions no one else thought to ask. When her attorney called me 2 weeks ago, I nearly hung up because I assumed it was a prank. It wasn't. Evelyn had left Mimi, not the nonprofit, her carriage house, with the stipulation that I could do with it what I wished, so long as I remained in the town and continued my work for 3 years. "You have a practical genius," she'd written in the letter, "and a spine of rebar. Someone will try to take both. Don't let them." I'd gone to the carriage house once since the attorney handed me the keys. It sat behind the big house like a loyal dog, dignified despite its chipped paint. Inside, dust motes, a fireplace, windows that admitted light like an apology. I'd stood in the middle and heard my heart in my ears. Then I had done what I always do. I made a plan. Renovation schedule, budget, potential uses. It could be mine, yes. But it could also be ours. Safe Harbors, a place where 2 women and their kids could wake up on Christmas morning and not listen for footsteps in the hall. I decided to tell my family tonight. Not on camera. Not as content. But as news. My news. It felt like a gift. The kind of gift that remakes the shape of a holiday. Not a trinket, not a show, but a change. In the living room, Celeste's laughter peaked. "Okay, loves, it's time for gifts." The chat explode, gift emojis, guesses, sugar. "We're going to do our family exchange off camera, but we'll open some PR packages in a sec." She beckoned me. "Rowan, come back." I wiped my hands, smoothed my hair like I was smoothing the ripples inside me, and walked toward the halo of the ring light. My mother pressed a mug into my hands. "You're doing great," she whispered. For a second. The older version of her blinked through the one who stitched patches on my knees and hummed Silent Night into my scalp, while I fell asleep in the back seat after the Christmas pageant. The one who held chaos at bay with carols. "Thanks," I said, and then gripping the envelope, tasting the shock of peppermint on my tongue. I realized something radical in its simplicity. I didn't need anyone to hand me something wrapped in paper to know my worth. I had built worth the way you build a house stud by stud, with splinters and stubbed toes. And tonight I had something to share that wasn't a plea for their gaze, but a bell rung in my own voice. Still, old instincts are hard to uproot. As Celeste guided us toward the tree again, I felt the familiar smallness rise like a tide. Be good. Be quiet. Don't make a mess. The envelope burned hotter, like it could sense my retreat. After this, Celeste whispered. Not muting herself enough, the chat caught it and erupted with laughing emojis. "We'll open the big brand boxes." After this, I whispered back, my voice steady. "I need to tell you all something." She blinked, curiosity jogging with irritation. "Can it wait?" I met her eyes. "It shouldn't." She pursed her lips, did mental math about audience retention, brand obligations, family hierarchy. She nodded reluctantly. "Fine, make it quick." My mother, who reads micro-expressions like tea leaves, said, "What is it, honey?" Victor checked his watch, the restored face catching the light. I slid the envelope from my coat. It looked small in my hand, powerless. But in my bones I felt the earth whisper again, carefully now. "After gifts," I said, still me, still polite. "Please." "Of course," my mother said, eager to shepherd us back into the order of things. "Gifts first." I slipped the envelope back under my coat, its edges digging into me a reminder. A promise, a secret that would soon not be a secret anymore. Snow pressed harder at the windows. The house balanced on a bright point between what had always happened and what might. And I, the quiet one, the practical one, stood on that point with a document that could tilt the whole family the whole night. The measuring tape was in someone else's hands for once. I could hear it retracting. I could feel the mirror waiting, The clock on the mantel clicked toward 7, each second like a nail hammered into my ribs. The live stream chat scrolled in a blur of hearts, candy canes, and demands for more Celeste. My mother's laugh came to high-pitch, like she was trying to match the tempo of the internet. Victor sat upright as if posture could substitute for personality. And me. I hovered in the frame's shadow exactly where they liked me, exactly where I'd always been placed. Okay, loves. Celeste chirped, lifting her glass of cocoa as if she were hosting the Oscars. It's time for gifts. You've all been so generous tonight, and we want to share a little of our own family tradition with you. The chat exploded with anticipation. Show us your gifts. Unwrap, unwrap, unwrap. Celeste beamed at the camera. We already did our personal exchange of camera. Because some things should stay private, but now we'll show you the big ones we got for each other. She glanced at me, then quickly back to her glowing ring light. Well, most of us. That little Jabba flick of the wrist, casual brushing, lint cut sharper than she probably intended. Most of us, as though my planner and candle weren't worth mentioning. I forced a smile for the camera, though my stomach twisted. Victor cleared his throat. Shall we? Celeste pulled out a glossy box wrapped in metallic gold paper. From Mom and Victor to me, she said, already sliding her manicured nails under the tape. The camera zoomed in on her hands as she lifted the lid. Oh my goodness. Prada boots. She squealed so loudly the microphone clipped. You guys, look at these. She held them aloft like a relic. The chat went wild. She deserves them. Queen energy. Oh my God, so chic. My mother dabbed her eyes. We wanted you to have something worthy, and you nailed it. Celeste gushed, hugging both of them dramatically, perfectly aware the camera was eating it up. Then Victor handed my mother a box. Inside was a delicate silk scarf from Paris, embroidered with her initials. She pressed it to her face as though it carried the scent of devotion. Oh, Victor, she breathed. You always know. The room glowed with approval, applause in pixels. And then it was my turn, except it wasn't. No one handed me anything. Celeste clapped once, bright as a cymbal crash. Now let's open the brand PR gifts. I blinked. Wait. Wasn't there? My mother shot me a quick warning glance. The kind that said, don't ruin this for her. Celeste had already moved on. She sliced open a huge box from a sponsor, shrieking at the contents. A designer blender, a set of copper cookware, a year's supply of luxury skincare. Each package seemed tailored for her, tagged with her name. I watched as the stack around her grew taller, while my lap stayed empty. The chat noticed. What did Rowan get? Show your sister's gifts. Be fair. Celeste glanced at me with that same airy generosity. Rowan's gifts were small. Not really camera material. There it was. Neat. Cruel. Absolute. My mother reached out to squeeze my knee, so physical pressure could silence humiliation. Victor chuckled lightly as if to soften the sting. Rowan's always been practical. She doesn't need all this fuss. The chat blew up again. That's mean. Let her show. Justice for Rowan. But Celeste ignored it, flipping her hair as she showed off a new designer coat. My mother leaned forward to distract the camera with another box. Victor poured himself another drink. I sat perfectly still. The humiliation settled over me like heavy snow. Every year it was the same. Celeste celebrated, adorned, praised. Me, forgotten. And this time it wasn't just in our living room. It was broadcast to thousands of strangers. Immortalized in the digital ether. The planner in my tote bag felt like an anchor. The candle like an afterthought. My throat burned. My chest pulsed. Rowan. Celeste called sweetly, too loud for the microphone. Would you mind refilling the marshmallows? They're almost gone. I rose automatically, my body still fluent in the language of servitude. My hands carried the bowl into the kitchen, but my heart lagged behind in the living room, staring at the empty space under the tree where something of mine should have been. In the kitchen, I gripped the counter until my knuckles whitened. My reflection in the window looked 4 shoulders slumped, eyes hollow. I am 32 years old. And still the child who gets nothing. Still the one they shove to the edges. The envelope under my coat nudged against my ribs again. A reminder. It's a spark. Not nothing. Not this time. I filled the bowl with marshmallows, but I wasn't carrying only sugar back into the room. I was carrying decision, raw and sharp. I set the bowl on the table and sat again. My mother gave me a tight smile, one that begged, let it go. Don't spoil the night. But something inside me had already cracked. The humiliation had stopped being an ache and started becoming a blade. When Celeste lifted another PR box and chirped, "This one's from Dior," I spoke, my voice cutting through the air like the church bells outside. "Before you open that," I said evenly, "I have something to share." Celeste froze. The chat went wild. My mother's head snapped toward me. Victor frowned. The room held its breath. And I held the envelope. The envelope felt heavier than the entire stack of Celeste's gifts combined. Its weight wasn't papered, was truth, sharpened over years of silence. I stood, my fingers trembling just slightly, though my voice came out calm. "Before another package gets opened, I need you all to hear me." The chat instantly ignited. "What's happening?" "Let her speak. Rowan deserves a turn." Celeste blinked, still holding her Dior box midair. "Rowan, can this wait? We're kind of live." Her smile was tight, designed for the camera, but her eyes flashed annoyance. "No," I said. My voice didn't shake. "It can't." Victor sighed as though I'd just reminded him the trash still needed taking out. "Rowan." But I had already slid the envelope onto the coffee table, its white flap stark against the green and red chaos. My hand lingered on it. "Steady now." "This," I said, "is the gift I brought this year. And it's not just for me. It's bigger than that." Celeste laughed nervously, adjusting her hair. "Oh, are we doing some kind of scavenger hunt?" "That's fun." She looked toward the camera, clearly hoping to spin this as quirky sister content. "No," I said again. "This isn't a game." My mother's voice was soft, pleading. "Honey, please don't. I'm not ruining anything, Mom. I'm finally telling the truth." I tore the envelope open and pulled out the folded papers. The rustle of them seemed to echo louder than the storm outside. "This," I began, lifting the deed, "is the Marchfield carriage house." The name alone cracked the room open. My mother's breath hitched. Victor's brow furrowed. Celeste tilted her head like a cat hearing an unfamiliar sound. "That estate," Victor asked slowly, "that went to auction months ago." "Not all of it," I said. "Evelyn March left the carriage house to me in her will." I let the words sink in, each one like a stone in still water. "Me, personally, it's mine." The chat detonated. "What? No way. Carriage house is worth $, Queen Rowan." Celeste's face froze in a practiced smile, but her hands fidgeted with the Dior ribbon. "I don't understand. Why would she leave it to you?" "She believed in my work," I answered. "She believed in Safe Harbor, in what I've been building. And she trusted me to do something with it. Something meaningful." Victor leaned forward, his voice dipping into that controlled tone he used when he wanted to reframe a story. "Rowan, that's extraordinary. But something like that needs management, maintenance, financial planning. You should have brought it to us first." I met his gaze without flinching. "No, this isn't yours to manage. It's mine, and I already know what I'm going to do." Celeste laughed again, brittle. "Wait, so? What? You're moving in there? Fixing it up for yourself?" Or she caught the camera's red light out of the corner of her eye and leaned into it. "Are you donating it?" "Oh my gosh, guys, maybe she's donating it." That would be so inspiring. Her followers ate it up instantly. "Rowan's the real MVP. Donate, donate, donate. She's better than Celeste, TBH." Celeste's smile flickered. I unfolded the second sheet of paper, the letter. My throat tightened, but I read aloud anyway, because Evelyn's words weren't just mine to keep. "Rowan, you have a practical genius and a spine of rebar. Someone will try to take both. Don't let them. Do with this place what only you would. Turn it into safety. Turn it into hope. The silence in the room was different now, heavier, real. I lowered the page. I'm turning it into transitional housing for Safe Harbor. Families will live there. Women who need protection will have a place to call home. That's my Christmas gift, not just to me, not just to you, but to people who actually need it. For once, my voice didn't feel small. It filled the room. It carried. The chat roared approval. Yes, angel on earth. Better than Prada boots any day? We stand Rowan now. My mother's lips trembled. Rowan, that's incredible. She looked torn between pride and fear of how this played on camera. Victor cleared his throat. It's noble, but you'll need guidance, legal advice, financial oversight. Perhaps Celeste can? No, I cut him off. This isn't Celeste's story to monetize. It isn't your project to oversee. It's mine, and I'm capable of handling it. The way my mother flinched told me I had never said those words so clearly before. Celeste finally set down her Dior box, her voice honeyed but sharp underneath. Rowan, I'm thrilled for you, honestly. But maybe we should have talked first, before making it a spectacle online. You've just hijacked the stream. I looked straight into the camera, into the thousands of strangers who had just witnessed years of imbalance crystallize into one moment. Or maybe, for once, I stopped letting myself be invisible. The chat erupted in solidarity. Finally, Rowan, speak your truth. This family is shady AF lol. Protect her at all costs. Celeste's smile cracked. Victor looked like he'd swallowed glass. My mother clasped her scarf tighter, torn between loyalty and shame. And me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't waiting for their validation. I had given myself my own gift, visibility. But I also knew this was only the beginning. They wouldn't let it rest here. The humiliation they'd tried to bury me under was about to shift into something else. And I was ready. For a heartbeat, the living room was split in two worlds. In one, Celeste's camera still streamed bright and polished tinsel twinkling. Coco's steaming, her curated smile frozen on her lips. In the other, silence pressed on my family like heavy snow, bending the branches of every carefully rehearsed tradition. And I standing there with Evelyn March's letter in one hand and the deed in the other was no longer their afterthought. Victor broke first. He leaned forward in his armchair, knuckles white on the carved wood. Rowan, he said, voice tight with restraint, you don't fully understand what you're holding. Real estate like that isn't sentimental. It's an investment. Property taxes, upkeep, liability. You can't possibly handle that alone. I tilted my chin. I've been handling things alone for a very long time, Victor. The chat lit up instantly. Tell him. Big sis energy from Rowan. Her spine greater than greater than greater than his tie. Celeste fluttered a hand toward the camera, trying to regain control. Okay, loves, ignore the drama wheel, be right back with more gifts. She reached for the tripod, but my mother grabbed her wrist, surprising us all. Wait, Mom whispered. Let her speak. Celeste blinked, stunned. So was I. My mother had never, ever interrupted Celeste for my sake. I swallowed my throat raw, but my voice didn't waver. I'm not asking for your approval. I'm telling you. The carriage house will be Safe Harbor's newest transitional home. It'll have locks strong enough to silence nightmares, rooms big enough for laughter to return. And I don't need management or oversight. I've already lined up contractors, volunteers, and donors. This is happening. Celeste's smile cracked at the edges, her eyes glassy with something between panic and rage. Rowan, you can't just... She gestured vaguely, her hands trembling. Do you even know what this looks like? On camera. Yes, I said, and I looked straight at the lens. It looks like someone finally stepping out of the shadow she was forced into. The chat erupted again. YESSS. Rowan for president. This is the content we came for. Celeste's cheeks flushed scarlet. This was supposed to be my stream. My moment, your moment. My laugh was sharp, brittle. Every Christmas, every birthday, every Sunday dinner has been your moment. And you know what I got? A planner. A candle. Things chosen to remind me I'm... Practical, useful, invisible. My mother winced. Victor stiffened. Celeste sputtered, her voice rising. I didn't mean, yes, you did. My voice sliced through hers. You meant every time you pushed me off camera. Every time you called me the practical one. Every time you reduced me to the sidekick in your story. But not anymore. I set the deed down on the table, deliberate and final. This is my story now. The stream's comments poured like a flood. Scrolling so fast the screen became a blur. Viewers weren't just entertained, they were angry. She's been sidelined too long. Rowan deserves everything. Celeste exposed this is sad to watch. Celeste's brand, her empire of curated perfection, was cracking in real time, and she knew it. She lunged for the camera, trying to smile through the panic. Loves, don't listen to the negativity, Rowan's just emotional, don't you dare, I cut in. My voice low and dangerous. Don't you dare call me emotional like it's a flaw. I am furious. I am proud. I am powerful. And if you think for 1 second I'll let you spin my gift into your pity content, you're wrong. The audience roared their approval. The tide had shifted. Victor stood, adjusting his tie as though the fabric itself could shield him. Enough. This spectacle has gone too far. Rowan, shut that thing off before you humiliate us further. I stared at him, years of swallowed words surging up. Humiliate you. Do you even hear yourself? I've spent my whole life being humiliated by this family. Tonight, the only thing I'm doing is telling the truth. If that humiliates you, maybe you should wonder why. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's eyes shimmered with tears. Celeste's face crumpled in fury. Victor's mouth opened, then closed again, jaw clenched so tight I thought it might shatter. I turned back to the camera, the glowing red light suddenly less a spotlight and more a torch. I've spent years being treated like the background character in my own family. But tonight, I'm giving myself a different ending. Not another candle, not another planner, not another half-hearted pat on the head. My gift is a home for women who need one. My gift is knowing I don't have to shrink to fit someone else's spotlight. And maybe some of you watching have felt invisible too. Maybe you've sat at a table where everyone else feasted while you scraped for crumbs of recognition. Let me tell you, you don't need their applause. You can build your own stage. You can give yourself your own gift. The chat exploded with crying emojis, clapping hands, declarations of love. Celeste's brand stream had transformed into my vindication. Celeste, desperate, tried one last angle. Rowan, please, this is making me look bad. Good, I snapped. Maybe for once, you'll know what it feels like to be on the other side of humiliation. The words landed like a slap. My mother gasped. Victor looked stricken. Celeste's eyes filled with tears, not the performative, sparkling kind her audience adored, but raw, ugly ones. The chat took sides instantly, but the scales weren't balanced anymore. Rowan greater than Celeste truth hurts. We stand the underdog finally getting her win. For once in my life, the power in the room belonged to me. I stepped away from the tree, away from the planner and candles shoved in my tote, and I placed my hand flat on the deed. This is justice. This is mine, and I will not let anyone diminish it. Victor sat down heavily, silent for once. My mother pressed a hand to her face, tears spilling. Celeste looked shattered, her camera kingdom crumbling in real time. And I stood taller than I ever had. Not because they gave me permission, but because I finally stopped asking for it. Christmas, for the first time in my life, wasn't about what they handed me. It was about what I claimed for myself. And tonight, in front of thousands of strangers and the family that had always underestimated me, I claimed everything. The stream ended abruptly, cut off by Celeste's trembling hand. The little red light blinked out, but the echo of it still pulsed in the room like a heartbeat. For the first time in years, silence belonged to me. Victor sat back, his tie crooked, his face pale. My mother dabbed at her eyes, the silk scarf trembling in her fingers. Celeste collapsed onto the sofa, Prada boots glinting under the tree lights like trophies from a battle she hadn't truly won. And me. I stood in the wreckage of their carefully staged perfection. Not broken, but free. I I don't know what to say, my mother whispered. Then don't say anything, I replied, my voice steady. Just listen. I had never asked that of her before. My whole life had been about softening myself, folding myself small enough to keep peace. Tonight, peace wasn't my gift. Truth was, I've spent every Christmas hoping you'd see me, I said, looking straight at her. Hoping that one year I'd unwrap something that proved I mattered as much as Celeste. And every year it was the same. Something useful. Something practical. A reminder to stay in my lane. Tears slipped down my mother's cheeks. I didn't mean I know, I said. But meaning doesn't erase impact. Victor tried to interrupt, his voice sharp. Rowan, enough. No, I cut him off. Not enough. Never again enough. You don't get to minimize me anymore. Not with your silence, not with your side comments, not with your dismissals. Tonight proved I don't need your validation. I never did. The words hung there like smoke. And for once, no one dared to swat them away. Celeste finally lifted her head, mascara streaking down her cheeks. Rowan, you don't understand. My whole life is this brand. If people think I've been cruel to you, it could ruin everything I've built. Her voice cracked, brittle as spun sugar. I looked at her, the sister who had wrapped me in her shadow for decades. The sister who thought love was a spotlight and she was the only one allowed to stand in it. I understand perfectly, I said softly. You built your brand on curated perfection. I'm building something that will actually last. Homes, safety, futures. If your audience prefers me to you, maybe it's because they finally saw something real. Her lips trembled. She had no defense. My mother reached for me then, her hand tentative, shaking. Rowan, I failed you. The words nearly undid me. I had waited 32 years to hear them, and yet they landed not like a triumph, but like a gentle ache. You didn't fail me, I said. You just forgot to see me. But I'm done waiting to be seen. Her tears spilled faster. She tried to take my hand, but I pulled back gently. Not in cruelty, just in clarity. Love isn't measured in gifts, Mom, I said. But every year you taught me that it was. You measured Celeste in diamonds and me in candles. And I believed you. Until tonight. Her shoulders sagged under the weight of my words. I picked up the deed from the table, its paper warm in my hand. This is mine, I said, but my voice wasn't just speaking to them anymore. It was speaking to the girl I used to be, the one who stayed small, who thought invisibility was safety. It's not just a house. It's proof that I can build something bigger than the shadow you put me in. It's my Christmas gift to myself, 2 women who will finally have a place to breathe, to heal, to start over. That matters more than anything you could have wrapped for me under this tree. The room was quiet except for the faint whistle of wind against the window. I slung my tote bag over my shoulder, planner and candle thudding uselessly at the bottom. For once, I didn't care. I'll come back for dinner tomorrow, I told my mother gently. If you want me there as I am not, as the quiet, practical one. But if not, that's okay too. Her lips parted, desperate to speak, but no words came. Celeste curled into herself, phone buzzing endlessly with notifications she couldn't outrun. Victor sat rigid, stripped of his authority. I walked to the door, the deed tucked safely under my arm. The cold air outside bit my cheeks, but it felt cleaner than the suffocating warmth I'd left behind. The snow crunched under my boots as I stepped into the night, the world sharp and alive around me. For the first time, I wasn't measuring Christmas by what I'd been given. I was measuring it by what I'd taken back. Later that night, back in my apartment, I sat by the glow of my old glow-in-the-dark stars and thought about Evelyn March's letter. A spine of rebar, she'd called it. For so long, I'd bent, folded, yielded. But maybe rebar doesn't show until you're tested. Christmas used to mean humiliation for me. It used to mean candles and planners, reminders that I was functional, not cherished. Tonight, it meant revelation. Justice, a turning point I would never forget. And the greatest gift, knowing I didn't need their approval to know my worth. I looked at the deed again, tracing Evelyn's bold signature. It wasn't just paper. It was a promise to myself, to Safe Harbor, to every woman who had ever been told she was small, practical, invisible. Not anymore. I whispered to the stars. And for the first time in my life, Christmas didn't feel like a measuring tape. It felt like freedom, and that was my story. A Christmas I'll never forget. Tell me, have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Share your story in the comments because I promise, you're not alone. If this story touched you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next tale of betrayal, justice, and redemption. And remember, sometimes the best gift you can give is finally standing up for yourself.